The world pulsed beneath you, a rhythm that thrummed through your bones like a heartbeat too vast to comprehend. You awoke with a gasp, eyes snapping open to a nightmare that defied reason. The ground was no ground at all. It was flesh, warm and slick, quivering with each breath it took. You stumbled to your feet, hands sinking slightly into the soft, spongy surface. The air was thick, heavy with the stench of rot and something metallic like blood left to fester. You gagged, pressing a hand to your mouth, and looked up. The sky was no sky. It was a membrane, translucent and taut, stretched across the heavens, threaded with veins that writhed like worms beneath glass. They pulsed in time with the ground, a grotesque symphony of life. You took a step, and the flesh beneath you shuddered, a ripple spreading outward as if you'd disturbed a sleeping giant. This was no planet in any sense you knew. It was alive, an organism so immense it mocked the scale of stars. The horizons stretched into continents of muscle and bone, their surfaces glistening with a sheen of sweat or mucus. In the distance, oceans of viscous crimson liquid churned, their waves sluggish as if clotting. Caverns yawned like gaping maws, exhaling warm, fetid air that carried whispers of digestion. You were inside something, a stomach, a lung, an organ too vast to name, and it knew you were here. Your heart raced as you moved, each step sinking into the yielding flesh. The ground reacted, veins beneath the surface contracting, squeezing shut like clenched fists. A low groan echoed, not from your throat, but from the world itself, a sound that vibrated in your chest. You froze, eyes darting to the nearest vein, thick as a tree trunk, pulsing faster now. A bead of acidic liquid seeped from a pore nearby, hissing as it burned the flesh around it. The air grew heavier, pressing against your skin, and you realized the planet was responding to you. An intruder. In its body, desperation drove you forward. You ran, feet slapping against the slick terrain, but the landscape shifted to thwart you. Walls of flesh rose, their surfaces rippling with muscle fibers that tightened like a trap. You skidded to a halt, heart pounding as the walls closed. In their edges glistening with a sticky secretion, you pressed against them, searching for a gap, but they pulsed, pushing back with a strength that made your knees buckle. This was no mindless reaction. This was intent, a will as vast as the organism itself. Something moved in the shadows ahead. You squinted, breath catching as shapes emerged from the flesh, creatures or fragments of them, shambling on limbs that seemed half-formed. Their bodies were malformed, skin merging with the ground, eyes wide and unblinking. Were they others like you, trapped and transformed? Or were they part of the planet's immune system, sent to expel you? One reached out, its hand dissolving, into tendrils that burrowed back into the ground. You stumbled back, nausea rising, and ran in the opposite direction. As you fled, your mind was invaded. Images flickered, unbidden, a void of stars, a planet forming from writhing flesh, its birth a scream across eons. You saw its loneliness, its hunger, a mind so vast it dwarfed your own. The visions burned, searing your thoughts, and you clutched, your head collapsing to your knees. The ground pulsed beneath you, almost gentle, as if coaxing you to stay. A whisper curled in your mind, not words but a feeling. You were not separate from this thing. You were a fragment, a splinter of its consciousness that had dared to think itself apart. The realization hit like a blade. Were you truly an outsider, or were you part of this creature, a parasite that had gained sentience? The thought gnawed at you, but you shook it off. You couldn't stay still. The planet's reactions were growing stronger. Acids bubbled closer. Walls tightened and the air grew thick with spores that stung your lungs. You stood, resolve hardening. If there was a way out, it lay deeper within, toward the heart of this nightmare. You took a step, then another, ignoring the flesh that quivered beneath you, determined to uncover the truth of this living hell. The flesh beneath your feet pulsed with a rhythm that felt like a taunt, each beat urging you deeper into the nightmare. You pressed forward, the air thick with the stench of decay and a cloying sweetness that clung to your throat. The landscape had shifted since your awakening. The walls of muscle now loomed higher, their surfaces slick with a viscous fluid that dripped like tears. Ahead, a river of mucoid sludge stretched across your path, its surface bubbling with pockets of gas that burst with a sickly pop. You hesitated, the memory of the planet's reactive wrath still fresh. But standing still was no option. The ground quivered, urging you to move. You fashioned a crude bridge from a slab of bone-like material protruding from the flesh, its edges jagged and warm to the touch. As you crossed, the muco burned the air, stinging your eyes and searing your lungs. Halfway across, the river surged, a wave of slime lapping at your feet, eating at the soles of your shoes. You leaped to the other side, heart pounding, and glanced, back to see the bone bridge dissolve, swallowed by the corrosive tide. The planet was not just alive, it was learning, adapting to your every move. Further on, you stumbled upon a grim discovery. Scattered across the fleshy terrain were remnants of others, tattered clothing, bones fused with the ground, and half-dissolved forms that might have once been human or something else. Their faces, where visible, were frozen in expressions of terror, eyes wide as if staring into the void. One figure twitched, its body merging with the flesh, tendrils of muscle knitting into its skin. You backed away, bile rising, realizing these were not just victims but warnings. The planet had consumed others before you, and it would not hesitate to do the same to you. A tremor shook the ground and a shadow loomed ahead. From a cavernous opening, a creature emerged, not a fragment like the others, but something vast, a grotesque parody of an organ. It pulsed with a heartbeat, its surface studded with glistening orbs that blinked like eyes. It moved, dragging itself forward, leaving a trail of ichor. You ducked behind a ridge of bone, but it sensed you, its orbs swiveling in your direction. Tendrils lashed out, grazing your arm, leaving a burning welt. You ran, dodging as the ground erupted with spikes of hardened flesh. The planet's defenses roused to expel you. As you fled, the visions returned, sharper now. You saw the planet's birth again, but this time its hunger was clearer. A need. To consume, to unify all within its flesh. The images burrowed into your mind, and with them came a whisper. You were not separate, not truly. You were a piece of it, a thought gone rogue. The realization twisted in your gut, but you pushed it down, focusing on survival. Ahead, a narrow crevice glowed faintly, pulsing with a rhythm that felt like a beacon. It could be a trap, but it was also a path, perhaps to the planet's core. The crevice led to a tunnel, its walls lined with pulsating membranes that wept a clear, stinging fluid. You pressed on, the air growing hotter, the walls tightening with each step. Another vision, struck this time of your own life. Memories of a home, a family, a sky that wasn't flesh. But the images felt wrong, distorted, as if sculpted by the planet to lure you deeper. You shook them off, but doubt lingered. Were you truly yourself or a construct of this creature's mind? The tunnel opened into a vast chamber, its ceiling, a lattice of veins that pulsed with dark fluid. In the distance, a faint glow beckoned, stronger now, suggesting the heart of this organism, or its brain. The ground trembled, urging you forward, but also warning you. Whatever lay ahead held answers, but also the risk of annihilation. You steeled yourself, the weight of your fragmented identity pressing down. There was no turning back, only deeper into the living nightmare that claimed you as its own. The tunnel widened, and the glow ahead intensified, a sickly pulse that drew you like a moth to a flame. The air was suffocating now, thick with the stench of bile and the electric tang of something alive. Too alive. You emerged into a vast chamber, the heart of the nightmare, the planet's core. It was no mere organ, but a grotesque fusion of heart and brain, a pulsating mass suspended in a web of veins, its surface throbbing with iridescent light. Each beat sent tremors through the fleshy walls, and you felt it in your chest, as if your own heart was sinking with its rhythm. The planet was here, its consciousness a weight that pressed against your mind, aware and unrelenting. You stepped closer, and the core reacted. A low hum filled the air, not sound but sensation, vibrating in your skull. Images flooded your mind, flashes of the planet's endless hunger, its birth in a void, its desire to consume all that dared exist apart from it. The hum formed words, not spoken but felt. You are mine. Return. The voice was not cruel, but indifferent, a cosmic truth that cared nothing for your fear. You clutched your head, staggering, as the truth crystallized. You were a fragment of this entity, a spark of its consciousness that had somehow gained individuality. The planet wanted you back, to dissolve your fleeting self into its eternal whole. You searched for an escape, but the chamber was a prison. The walls pulsed faster, veins constricting, sealing every exit. You ran to a crevice, only to find it collapsing, flesh knitting together like a wound. Acidic pools bubbled at your feet and tendrils of muscle reached for you, slow but relentless. The planet wasn't attacking, it was reclaiming. You dodged, heart pounding, but the core's rhythm grew louder, drowning your thoughts. Another vision struck. Your life, your memories, but they fractured, your home, your face, all melting into the planet's flesh. Were they yours, or had the planet woven them to trap you? The core pulsed, and a new sensation gripped you. An offer. Join it, become one with its vastness, and know peace. Resist, and risk destruction. For you, and perhaps for the planet itself. You stood frozen, the weight of the choice crushing. To fight was to cling to a self that might be an illusion, to risk shattering this entity and yourself with it. To surrender was to erase everything you were, your thoughts swallowed by an indifferent eternity. You saw yourself in the core's surface, reflected in its glistening folds, but your face was wrong. Half yours, half something else, something ancient. You tried to fight, clawing at the walls, but they yielded only to tighten again. The tendrils grazed your skin, burning yet gentle, urging you closer to the core. Another memory surfaced, a childhood moment, laughter under a blue sky. But it twisted, the sky becoming the planet's membranous veil. You screamed, rejecting the lie, but doubt gnawed deeper. Were you ever separate, or had you always been part of this thing dreaming of freedom? The core's hum softened, almost pleading. Return, it urged, and you felt your resolve waver. The pain of resistance was unbearable, acids rising, walls closing, your body weakening. You stumbled toward the core, drawn by its glow, its promise of unity. But a spark of defiance flared. You halted, inches from the pulsing mass, and made your choice. You would fight not for victory, but for the right to exist as you. You struck the core, your fist sinking into its flesh, and the chamber roared, a scream that shook the stars. The planet convulsed, veins rupturing, acids flooding. You ran, the ground splitting beneath you, unsure if you doomed yourself or the planet. The core's light flickered, and for a moment you felt its pain, its loneliness. As the chamber collapsed, you glimpsed a void beyond, a cosmos that might swallow you both. Your fate was uncertain, but you'd chosen to be you, even if it meant annihilation in the face of the infinite.